Hello and welcome to Conversations Across the Ditch with myself, Carrie Marie in New Zealand, and the lovely Kelly O'Shea over in Tasmania.
Hi guys, hi Carrie.
Hello, and today we are discussing how to eliminate negative feelings about nearly anything and enjoy life more.
That sounds awesome.
I think so. I think this is like one of the most important topics we could actually ever have because what we're going to be discussing is a technique called reframing. And what that is it's basically a method to change our perspective on any event or situation or thought that will help you to empower you to see beyond your limiting perceptions and perspectives. And Kelly, I loved we were just having a discussion before we came on, and we're just talking about the importance of reframing and why it's so beneficial to us.
It is, I'm going to share with you a quote from Dr. Wayne Dwyer. And he says, when you change the way you look at things, things you look at change. And that is, I'm going to say it in the first 10 seconds. It's phenomenal, right? It's, just reframing, our words and how we look at things, how we see things. It's just an amazing skill to understand and to do, and it changes everything, and it allows you to move forward in confidence, and just it really changes everything, doesn't it?
It really does, because what it means is that our past experiences, which we perhaps thought were horrible, we can actually frame those so that they became learning opportunities instead, that actually they gave us something. And we'll share some personal examples of those later in the chat today. And
Absolutely.
also something else that you shared earlier, and it's just beautiful the way that you put it in terms of being able to really flip our experiences into something beneficial and useful for us. It wasn't Absolutely. The words that you were using, but it was something along those lines, and it is so powerful. So let's delve in to what reframing. Actually, no, please, would you share a story? Because to really illustrate why this is so important, because I know you had experience recently that was so incredibly powerful.
Okay, so you want me to share my recent operation?
I do, because I don't know about this, but for me, I think of surgery and I think, oh my God, I'm so glad I've never had to have one. And
okay.
So you going through it, so I know that what you went through this week was absolutely incredible. So I'd love you to share.
Yeah. Well, I've been on and off with operations for most of my life since I was 8, and for a long time they were very negative. All I can, they were painful, they were negative, so that's how I would look at them. Recently, I my mindset is changing, and I'm learning a little bit about reframing. And I went in and had an operation on my eyelid, and I was going in, and I felt nervous. But what I did was I connected with where I felt that. And then I started doing some deep breathing to calm myself down. And then I was thinking about the positive of what this is going to do for me. I'm going to be able to close my eye. I'm going to be able to stop the dryness in my eye. And then when I got into the surgery, my doctor, or the anesthesia, informed me that I was only going to have a local. And I was like, what? And but again, I went with the deep breathing, and I was like, this is going to be the most amazing experience that I'm ever going to have in my life. And throughout the thing, it was really good, because my doctor was talking to me very positive. You know, he was telling me, you're doing great, it's going really well. And so that positive was coming into me, and I was thinking positive thoughts about where I was going, what was going to happen. There was nothing negative in the room at all. And so for me to be able to reframe what could have been a complete disaster if I hadn't gone in with my normal negative thoughts, I reframed it to positive outcomes, positive experiences, and it was the most amazing experience in my life. And then when I had my follow-up with the doctor, and he was quite concerned, he said, oh, it's really swollen and it's going to go black. And I smiled and I said, I'm excited about that, because now I can tell everyone that I'm a cage fighter. And he laughed. He laughed so much. I think he nearly wet himself. But then a great example of how I could have turned, you know, a negative thing, because he was talking about the swelling and the bruising, and I could have gotten distraught about that, but I turned that into a humorous situation, and the whole room changed. He changed, and so I reframed that again. And there is such a powerful tool to learn and implement in everyday life, in everything you have. And so now, yeah, it's all positive for me. So yes, and thank you for letting me share that, Carrie.
And thank you for sharing it so well, because what you've shared isn't just a case of, okay, I'm making this a positive experience, which you did. It's like by flipping that around, because our thoughts carry vibrations and frequency, and negative thoughts carry unhealthy vibrations and frequencies with them, that they cause flight and fight responses in the body. So you making it positive, laughing about it, being playful through your experience actually helped you to heal faster. And because of your positive attitude, they were actually able to give you the local, which also enhanced your recovery rate. Because if you had been worried and stressed out, that would have just knocked you out. Because they would have figured, well, it's going to be too stressful for her. But because of your positive attitude, they're actually able to give you local and speed up your recovery, and therefore your health and healing is better because of that. So this is why it's so powerful. And I remember when we had you told me about this at first, and you actually rated it on your scale of amazing things that you've done in your life alongside jumping out of a plane. It was experience there, and I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was, you know, with both experiences, I'm not going to lie and I'm not going to deny I was scared. But I took over that by realizing I need to look at this as a positive, and excitement and humor. And I mean, this is something I can tell everyone. I was awake in an operation. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, even the nurses were surprised, weren't they, when you came out and they're like, you're awake already? You're like, I was awake the whole time.
Yeah, and then that's what you mentioned before. It speeded up my recovery, because I didn't have to go through the grogginess of coming out of the anesthetic. You know, because like you said, that's in my body. So my body's coming out of that, and it's taking a little bit while. But because I didn't have it, I was already awake. I was already, you know, and I sat up and I got out of bed, you know, a good 10, 20 minutes later, which in a normal situation, I wouldn't. They would be taking my observation because I'm still groggy and I want to sleep, you know, because the anesthetic makes you want to sleep more.
Yeah.
Whereas I was completely awake. It was great.
The anesthetic, this is slightly off track really from where we're talking about, but the anesthetic, my understanding is they don't really understand how it works, but they almost take you to the brink of kind of death in a way, so that you don't feel anything of what's going on. So that's why they have to be so careful with it. And if they get it wrong, or I'm not too sure if that's the right word even, I'm just thinking about my Paul, my partner, he had anesthetic on one of his operations, on one of his surgeries, and he said it took him 6 months to recover. He had nausea for like 6 months until it finally got out of his system. So it can have detrimental effects for quite a while afterwards. just purely from not having a good positive attitude to what's happening to you, and trusting in the process. Like, there's a good amount of trust in your relationship with the doctor, I think, as well, to be able to allow him to do that for you. So that's so powerful. So we're talking about the magic of rapport I think in the last episode. This is why these techniques that we're sharing are so important, because it affects us on so many different levels and builds up that trust and ability to go, okay, I can trust this, I can surrender into this, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that that trust was vice versa. You know, he had the trust in me that I'm going to be okay to be awake, because he knows what I've been through and he knows where I am, and so he knows she's got this and she can do this. And so knowing that he's got that trust, I've got that trust in him, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you shared that as well. Knowing your journey and where you've been, that also goes to show how far you've come from where you were to where you are now.
Absolutely.
And that's through learning these techniques and actually applying them.
And then reframing is an amazing technique to have and to understand and to utilize in your life, for yourself, but also for those around you, those that you communicate with on a daily basis. You know, it's a tool that is it's just gold.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering what to add to this. I think I will. I'll add to this this idea about the reframe and how powerful it is, because it can literally change the course of people's lives. And the story I want to share with you is, I forget the name of the teacher. I don't have the story in front of me, but she was a 5th grade teacher, and it was the start of the class, start of the year, and she's looking at all her students. She's thinking, and she's finding them all, how much she's going to love them all equally, which is a complete untruth. She's got one of the boys in the front row looking pretty, a little bit beraggled, is that even a word? Bedraggled, maybe. His clothes are a bit messy, he hasn't had a bath, and she's making judgments on him, and he's not getting on particularly well with some of the kids as well. So she's kind of got this instant prejudice against this kid. And she actually gets to the point where she's enjoying putting big fat F's on his papers and putting big red marks on the things that he's got wrong. But as a 5th grade teacher, she actually has to go through and review at all of her students' past records. And as she goes through the past records, she actually sees that he wasn't always like this. That in the 1st grade, he was a joy to be with, be around. He was laughing, he was good with other kids, he was really smart and bright. But over time, through each grade, he became more withdrawn. His mother died, his father lost interest in him, and it got to the point where he's falling asleep in class in the 4th grade. And then she was like, oh, I see the problem. She actually shifted her paradigm. She had a reframe. So the reframe for her was, oh, it's not that he's a bad kid. He's gone through a lot. He needs my help. So her attitude completely shifted then. Instead of putting him down, she started to actually help him and encourage him. And as she did that, he started to come out of his shell more. He started to become smarter and taking more of an action in class. And one day he brought in, the kids all brought her a Christmas gift. And so she had all these beautifully wrapped presents with ribbons on them and pretty paper. And then there was teddies. And it was just in a thick brown paper bag that he got from a grocery store. And she opens it up. And out of it, she pulls out a rhinestone bracelet with some of the stones missing, and a bottle of perfume that's only a quarter full. All the other kids laughed, and she put by her action was to actually go, wow, isn't this beautiful? And she puts the bracelet on. She dabs the perfume on her wrist. And she really embraces it and says, oh, this is beautiful, and thanks him for it. And that quelled all the other kids. And that day, Teddy stayed after school just long enough to say to her, now you smell like my mum. And so she obviously that touched her deeply. She stayed after school for a whole hour crying because she understood then what those things meant to her, what they meant to him, and what he was saying about her and their relationship together. And that transformed the way that she taught from then on. She didn't teach the arithmetic, the reading and literature and geography. She didn't teach any of that stuff anymore. She taught the kids.
Mm.
And afterwards, after he left her class, she kept getting letters through every time he reached a milestone in his educational journey. He would write to her and say that she was still his favorite teacher, that she was the best teacher that he'd ever had. So he got through high school, he got his degree, and then he got a doctorate. So at the end of one of his letters, it was finished with Theodore Stoddart, MD. So he'd actually got his medical doctorate. And then a few months later, she got another letter saying that he'd met a girl, and would she, that his father died, I think about a year or two or so ago, would she like to have be in a seat reserved for the groom's mother? And of course she said yes. And she goes and she makes sure that she wears the bracelet that he gave her and the perfume that his mum used to wear. And she went to that wedding and they embrace, and Teddy thanks her for being the best teacher he'd ever had, for her believing him. And she said, no, you've got it all wrong. You taught me how to teach. Thank you. And that, even telling you the story, I'm welling up. It's such a phenomenal story because there's so much in there about the reframing. And you can see those two different perspectives as well. And how just the power of reframing, that power of reframing and changing that perspective on something. Like, she could have looked at that bracelet and perfume and thought, wow, he didn't think much of me, did he? But she didn't. She made it a big deal. And because of that, he mattered.
Oh, wow. And that story makes, it's amazing, isn't it? You know, and if I can just quickly throw in here, I just made me think of something then. A couple of years ago when I was teaching as well, and the children would bring in presents. One child gave me a rock. Okay, and my first thought was like, oh, gee, awesome, thank you. But then I thought, you know what? She's taken the time to carry that rock all the way to school to give to me. And then I looked, you know, I still got the rock, and I didn't look at it in a whole new different way, because I look at the meaning from that. Like, she picked that rock up thinking about me and carried that rock all the way. So that changed my perspective, and I reframed how I looked at that rock now. You know, so it's powerful, and it, like I said before, it's just an amazing tool to have as a human being when you look at so much in life.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Kelly. So let's talk a bit about what reframing isn't. So we get clear about what it actually is. So we'll look through what it isn't first, and then we'll discuss what it actually is. So reframing isn't about getting fixated on a certain idea or on what's not working or what hasn't worked in the past. It's not about limiting your options. It's not like, I love that we use this metaphor quite a lot, the blinkers, right? It's not about going through life with blinkers on, so you only see the tunnel vision, one thing. It actually opens up our options and expands what's possible.
Absolutely.
So it's not destructive. Like,
no.
If we're constantly churning out on the same thought and we're on that negative path, we're actually destroying any possibilities for something different. So, and it's not disregarding the communication that you have with yourself. It's actually starting to acknowledge what the thoughts are in your mind. so that you can actually start to go, what else is possible?
Well, that's it, you know, like it is changing a negative statement, a negative thought, a negative experience into a positive one.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean that's just, even for me now, to thinking that, you know, we can all have the skills and the ability to do that while we're moving forward in life.
Yeah.
That's so precious. And so, yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, like I say, it's not about holding on to negative feelings either. So it's not about holding on to negative thoughts. It's not about holding on to negative feelings or experiences. It's letting those letting them go. And it's definitely not about judging and being stuck with a behavior. So I'd like to mention something that Callie mentioned earlier, actually, because she was saying about what you didn't want people to go away with from this was the feeling of, oh, I've been doing it all wrong. I could have been doing it better. Those are judgments. It's not about that.
No.
So it's
not at all.
It's always about moving forward. Okay, it's been like this in the past. You've done the best you can in the past. That's actually a reframe in itself. Now, what else is possible moving forward? What's another way we can look at this?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really important not to make judgment on yourself from your past experience and your past actions. You know, that happened. That's okay. But you can acknowledge them, but moving forward, reframe them, do them differently, look at them differently. You know, the way that you react to people.
Yeah.
You know, it's the opportunity to change it.
Definitely. And we'll share with you some of the house and just a sec.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I used to think reframing was literally taking a negative statement, even a negative belief, like one of the core ones that a lot of us have is the I am not enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not intelligent enough, or I'm not qualified enough, anything like that. And then writing the opposite. I am enough. I am. That it's not that. And the reason it's not that is often that can feel it's too much, it's too far, and it can feel like an outright lie. And then that also isn't congruent with you, so it doesn't feel right, doesn't match. So it's not that either. What it is about creating better communications with yourself, opening up your possibilities, your options. It's about empowering yourself. It's looking for the silver lining in things. What's the learning here? It's about letting go of your judgments. It's about accepting all of your behavior and also accepting that you can change it, that it's not fixed.
Absolutely. I love that. You know, and it doesn't define you.
Yes, we are not our behaviors.
Yeah, you know, that's it, right? I mean, it doesn't, and when we can get it into here, that our past behaviors don't define us. We have the ability, and through this book, you know, the strategies that Carrie and I have been sharing with you, to change that.
Yes.
And to move forward and to become the best that we can and the best that we want. For ourselves and others. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's also, because of all of that, it's also about increasing our enjoyment of life.
Oh, absolutely. That's important, isn't it?
I think so. And I think the story you shared earlier was so important and valid to that, because an experience that would have otherwise been traumatic actually turned into, I'm not going to say it was an enjoyable experience, but looking back, it actually was in a way, because you're like, I got that. I did it. It is. And you were on a high because of what you'd accomplished and achieved. So it's like, oh my goodness, how awesome am I?
It was amazing. And you know, and you talking about reframing to enjoyment, is I'm thinking of it. Everyone knows the movie Mary Poppins, right? You know, and I think it's the scene where she gets Jane and Michael to clean up their nursery or whatever it is, and Jane and Michael respond with, "Oh, that's so boring, I hate that, I don't want to do it." But Mary Poppins reframes it into a game, into enjoyment. And then we go on to see Jane and Michael singing and dancing, and they're tidying up the room, and they're enjoying it, and I just think that's a great example of reframing something that you maybe looked at as boring or negative. It's the same thing, but you're looking at it in a different perspective, and it changes everything. I mean, and they actually enjoyed cleaning up their nursery. Wow.
Well, yeah, we love to actually enjoy cleaning up our houses. So yeah, absolutely. How can we reframe doing those mundane chores or even mundane jobs so that we can gamify them and make them something that we perhaps look forward to doing?
Absolutely.
And so you can look at reframing as a metaphor for potential and possibility. Which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And I've got this quote here from Tony Robbins. Someday I'll probably look back at this and laugh. So he says, why not look back and laugh right now? Why wait?
Exactly.
Why wait till tomorrow or a year's time?
I love that.
Why not do it now?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like, I mean, and then proven that laughter releases those things in your body that make
endorphins.
you happier.
Endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine, all those good things. Yes.
Yeah. And they make you happier, and they change your mindset. And that is, for example, that's exactly what I was doing in my operation. And I was using humor and laughter to make a possible negative, painful situation better.
Yeah.
And so, you've got, I'm doing it now. I think, that's it. Don't wait. Do it now. Laugh.
Yes.
But laugh in appropriate situation. I don't want people to then say, "Oh, that Kelly and Carrie told us we need to laugh."
Yes, gauge the appropriateness of the situation before you first start laughing.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I love what you're sharing there about laughter releasing those endorphins and feel-good hormones, because that also helps us to be in our healthy physiology. It helps our body to heal, to be nourished, to function properly instead of being in the fight stress mode, which we often catch ourselves in, and is a symptom of thinking negatively and feeling negatively about things. So this is really key to our health and well-being on the physical level as well.
Yeah.
And another way of looking at reframing as well is that we're focusing on like negative to positive, but what we can also use it for is to go from good to great. It's like you've got something that's working okay in your life. You can also look at, okay, well, how could this be even better? And reframe it in that context as well. So it's not just about bad to good, it can also be good to great.
Absolutely. Oh, and that's awesome, isn't it? Like being able to know that you're in a good place, but then think, hey, what if it's just, that little bit better, and reframing it. Like, I mean, I'm sure we all have that moment of a Monday morning when we're like, oh, we're gonna go to work. Oh, but what about reframing it? Like, okay, I'm going to work. I'm gonna learn a new skill that is gonna help me move on to maybe getting a promotion, or a pay rise or something like that. So it's just that mindset of reframing. Again, I guess I use the positive and the negative there, but using it to move on to something better.
Yeah. I remember when I used to work in retail, I used to have a little phrase that I used in the morning saying, how can I be a blessing in everyone's life today? So I was taking it from me and going, okay, well, what can I bring to the day? So I was reframing it from what would have been a day of drudgery to, okay, how can I make a difference?
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Of course. So shall we go into the different types, Kelly?
Absolutely. Where do I find my page?
That's all right. I'll quickly.
Okay, I've got it.
You got them? There's 2 types that I've got here. That's okay. I'll share that. So we've got 2 types. One is context based, which is the same behavior in a different situation. Now, and then the other one is content based, which is the same situation, but then we give it a different meaning. And so we've actually got some personal examples of each of these. So, Kelly, and there was one that you were going to share, I think, on this in terms of, that was it. It was your note taking, your same situation. So would you like to share that?
I'm always with my note taking. I don't write in sentences. I write down words, right? And sometimes I just go back and I'm like, what does that mean? And it's just, yeah, and then I started thinking about, like, I'm hopeless at note taking, like, oh my goodness, I can't do note taking. But then engaging in my coaching career, my note taking has been a blessing, because using the one word, you know, when I'm taking a note, when I'm with a client or whatever, means and allows me to stay more focused on my client. So I've been able to reframe my note taking from hopeless, terrible, to, wow, it really is serving me the way that I'm doing it. You know, so yeah, it absolutely, that the note taking is
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly, because I know that was a bit of something that was really bugging you for a bit, because going back through your notes, you're like, well, I'm trying to make sense of this and I can't. So it's not the behavior that's the problem, it's simply the context that it's being used in that's a problem. And so absolutely. I'll give you an example from my point of view, is that sometimes I think and I try different thought on over and over again, and sometimes I try it in different ways and not get anywhere. So I'm not basically thinking in circles. But I was thinking about this and I thought, well, actually, another place that I'm actually using that now. I've just started to learn how to play the ukulele. And it's actually working pretty well for me there, because I'm just sitting there and I'm practicing my chords over and over again, all the chord changes, the strumming. And it's like, actually, it's meaning that I'm not in my head so much and I'm actually just doing it on the strings instead, but that's beneficial. That's serving me. And I'm actually really enjoying that. So that so that's another way that, so it's a similar behavior, but framed in a different context where it serves.
Absolutely.
So I'd invite you to think about, perhaps maybe there's a situation in your life, a behavior that hasn't served you or isn't serving you in a certain situation. Is there another place in your life or another situation where it'd be really useful? I'd like you to think about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Other type was the content type, which is the same situation, different meaning. Now, I'll share mine first, if that's okay, Kelly, and then I'll let you go with yours, because I know you've got an awesome one as well. So for me, mine was bullying. I remember talking to my coach about this, and I kind of felt like the bullying thing at school kind of defined me, and I didn't want to put myself out there, afraid of getting hurt and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, but what did it give you? I was like, I don't think it gave me anything. It's like, well, it must have served you in some way, assuming that everything works. What did it give you? And I was thinking, well, it gave me a sense of independence, because I wasn't relying on anyone for like several years. I was a loner. I didn't trust anybody, but it meant I was independent. It meant that I got to explore my likes. I wasn't afraid of not liking the most recent pop band that everyone was sort of drooling over. I think it was Take That at the time. It's like I wasn't bothered about following the crowd. I just followed my own desires and my own passions. what it also meant was that I was protected in a way. I was protected from being in the in crowd who were having drunken parties and smoking. And it also meant I was kind of protected from the, I don't know what you call them, the crowd, the other side of that, the flip side of that, who were also drinking and smoking. So I was kind of in the middle. I wasn't in either camp. I was just on my own. So I guess it protected me from that, because I didn't want to be involved in any of that. That wasn't my thing. It wasn't my scene anyway. So it meant that I didn't feel peer pressure to be involved in any of those things. And some of the stories I heard were pretty horrendous. So yeah, it protected me from that. It meant that I could explore who I was and what I really liked. And like, what was it? I can't remember what your example there was, Kelly, for your same situation but different meaning.
I've gone blank. Carrie.
It's all good.
Oh,
I think maybe we're going to put your operation in there, your surgery in there, and we did it already.
Yeah. And I've done it already. I've jumped in and shared that
gave it
already.
I think that was already, because you gave it a different meaning. The original meaning would be, oh my God, this is horrible. But now it's like, no, this is really positive. They're really helping me. It's a really positive thing. So I think we actually already did it. We already shared that one, guys.
We did. We're
so efficient.
Forward and did that one. We are.
We're reframing it. We're so efficient.
It is. You know, it's great. You know, and I just, you know, if it's okay if I share, you know, when Carrie and I had conversation before we jumped on, we were also talking about the importance of reframing in a conversation with someone, and allowing them and building a rapport. And you may not always agree with what they say, okay, but allowing them to have their say, and then acknowledging that you're hearing them. And if you have some different perspective, make sure that you ask them, is it okay if I share with you a different way to look at that? Okay, they may not always say yes. If they don't, that's okay. All right, but always acknowledge that you're hearing them. Don't jump in and say, well, you know, I've got something different. And when you acknowledge someone else, you're also, you're in letting them know that you're coming from a safe place. Yes. All right, and you're just sharing that perspective. I think that's really a key element of reframing and sharing your perspective, not pushing it on people, but building that rapport, which I know is something we've shared previously in Tony Robbins. Like, all these skills are so powerful, and they all link, you know, they all go together, you know, building the rapport and then offering a different perspective. You know, I don't know if anyone has looked at the number 6, you know, when you draw it like that. Okay, if I look at it from my way, it's a number 6. If Carrie looks at it from the top end, it's possibly a number 9. Okay, neither of us are wrong. We're just looking at it from different perspectives. You know, and then another one, if I may say, share as well, is I am the letter W or the letter M, whichever way you look at it. From my side, it's a W. From Carrie, she's looking at an M. You know, and then there's an example of different perspectives that are not necessarily wrong. Okay, but they're just the different ways that we look at them. And by acknowledging that, we are reframing that both perspectives are right from whichever side we look at it. So I just think there's a couple of key things that to be aware of, you know, and
appreciate the way you shared that, Kelly, because absolutely, it's like two people can be looking at the exact same thing, seeing two completely different things based on their past experience. Neither of them is wrong, but until they actually open up by having that rapport built up and then start asking questions about, okay, actually, I'm not seeing this. Can you please point out to me how you're seeing that? Where, if they're looking at an image, say of, so there's these beautiful optical images, right? Where there's 2 images in one picture, and they might say, well, I don't see the vases, but you see silhouettes of people's faces. Well, can you tell me where the nose is? Like, oh, okay, that's this part of the vase. Okay, I get, and then you can start piecing it together. You start to get clearer on each other's perspectives, and I think that's amazing. You're expanding what you're understanding.
Absolutely.
Like the story we shared in a previous video about, or previous episode about the map is not the territory, and we're discussing, well, actually, if you go to a tourist shop, you might only have a map of the streets, right? But if you go to a tourist place, or you go to the bus depot, that you might actually find maps for the trains, the buses, the cycle routes, the pathways, the parks, the tourist attractions, different maps depending on different interests. But if you put all those maps together, how rich and diverse you start to get a picture of the place that you're visiting or staying in. And that's the power of this, of being able to reframe what's going on.
Absolutely. And I love that example, because none of those maps are wrong. Like I might pick up the map to get to point X, but I might pick up the tram map. Whereas you want to get to point X as well, we're going to meet there for coffee, but you pick up the I don't know, the walking map.
Well, yeah, it could be the walking map, yeah.
They're very different. They show different routes, but they get us to the same place. And that again, that's an example of the map is not the territory, but also understanding that, the different perspective of how we get there. We're using different maps, but we're still getting there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's such a great conversation to be having. And I want to, I'm not sure if we're anyway, I want to give you this quote as well, because I think this is so important too, because often we get fixated on the problems. And the problem is not the problem, it's the thinking that created the problem that's the problem. And then the reframing actually helps us to address the thinking, which then helps us to reframe the problem, which then no longer looks like a problem, becomes an opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's that example that you gave before, Carrie, of you overthinking it, like rethinking it. When we do that, that's when it can become a real big problem. Because when you're going over it and over it, and
broken record. But hey, not a problem when I'm doing when I'm playing ukulele. It's actually really good.
Well, that's it. That's not a problem. That's good. We want that to happen. You're gonna have to play it for us one day, Carrie.
One day I will. I'm still in the early days yet.
Okay.
But I'm getting there. I've learned 6 chords.
Oh, fantastic.
Two types of strumming, or 3 types of strumming. I've got the normal one, and then I've learned an up and down strum and a backbeat strum. So I'm learning. And I've got 3 melodies that I'm playing and working on and improving. So yeah, I'm getting there.
I love that, because I'm thinking, from my perspective, I'm thinking, okay, learning to play the ukulele, but she hasn't got a teacher, so how the hell is she doing it? But from your perspective, you're allowing yourself to teach yourself. You know what I mean? And so, that's how I was looking at it, thinking, yes, you are amazing, but how can you learn the ukulele without a teacher? Oh my goodness.
YouTube.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's amazing. There's a huge amount of resources on there. I found some awesome teachers actually on there, and they're fantastic. So I use that, and then it's practice. So I watched their videos several times, and once I've got the chords and I've got the general things, I've just got to keep practicing, and that's what I do.
Good.
And I'm loving it. I'm loving it because it's part of my spirituality, part of my routine in the mornings as well, to chant and bring mantra.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, lovely.
So I think, if it's okay, we will close this session now. And you had a beautiful Tony Robbins quote that you wanted to close with. Do you remember what that was, Kelly?
I do. I highlighted it in my book. But okay. Oh, here we go. There are ways to see our biggest problems as our greatest opportunities. Like, how many of our listeners now minds are exploding? And what you thought was your biggest problem could be your greatest opportunity in abundance, in certainty, in overcoming fear, in empowerment, in inspiration.
And
I just, yeah, health, exactly, health, in life in general, in the way, in what, oh, so much, that's going to become my daily mantra. I love that, and I'm going to, yeah, just invite big problems to become amazing opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So, task for you to do after you've listened to this podcast is start doing what Kelly suggested earlier. Become a reframe, seek opportunities to reframe yourself and notice other people's language too. And if you have the rapport there and they're open to another perspective through you asking them, then share the other perspective and see how that sits with them. Does it make them feel better about what they're experiencing or what they've been complaining about? Some people just want to complain. It's okay to leave them there, but become the hunter for opportunities to reframe and stop practicing this. And I'd love for you to also share, we'd love for you to share your key learnings from what you've discovered today and what you find as you implement reframing in your everyday life. In our group, our beautiful community actually of people who are on their personal empowerment journey as well. It's called Empowering You Book Club, where we take some of the top personal development books of all time and we go through them. We provide a load of resources from audios, videos, beautiful posts, workbooks, you name it, actual support as well. So you can reach out to us if you have questions, if you need something, a lift up, whatever it is, we're there for you in your corner. So if you would like to be part of that, you'll find the link in the description below this podcast. It's completely free to join. And we'd love to have you there. Share your key learnings, get involved, because the more you implement, the more you action, the more you write, the more you listen, the more you'll take this in and the more likely you are to have the success and the changes that you'd love to see in your life. Is there anything you'd like to share with that, Kelly?
I'm already like, well, I want to join the group. It's phenomenal because Carrie and I are on this journey with you, so we are as more as what you are, and so we're learning with you and we're sharing what we're learning, and it's just an amazing place. It's safe, it's judgment free, and it's just amazing, and we are, through this book, we are getting to know our unlimited power, which is awesome.
It absolutely is. It so is. And yeah, if you think this, if you know people who would benefit from this too, please invite them in. There's no limits at all on who can be in the group. The more the merrier, because then we can support each other as we grow. So it's absolutely amazing. So I'll give you the link, but you'll find it in the description as well. So the link is facebook.com/groups/empowering you book club. Yeah. And we look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.